Hello, everybody. Happy Friday, and thank you for watching my video today. This is a new series that I am going to be trying to do. Nuka City, where we simulate a nuclear explosion, just one, so it's not all out nuclear war. This is just one city at a time, um, and we'll see how that affects each individual city and where how each city's geography and different factors may affect that outcome. Okay, so the first city that we're going to do is Los Angeles. Obviously, a very well-known city all over the world, very important city strategically and logistically for the United States, as well as culturally as well. Probably one of the most, other than New York, maybe it's probably one of the most recognizable cities in the world. Okay, so the Greater LA area has a population of 18.5 million citizens. The city covers approximately 469 square miles. Now, I assume that is just what officially counts as Los Angeles, because that does. I know that's obviously a very large area, but it doesn't seem big enough to be all of like the LA basin, and so I think that is just, you know, what is classed as actual Los Angeles, not any of the surrounding satellite towns or the greater LA metropolis. So it's USA's second city. It's the largest city west of the Rockies, and it's a major logistics hub for the west coast of the United States, with the port of Long Beach and obviously Los Angeles International Airport as well. So the weapon that I'm going to choose is the largest weapon that the US arsenal has ever had. This weapon is no longer in the American stockpiles now, and so there is that this weapon is extremely powerful compared to the more precise weapons that we have today. Back in the day, before the sophisticated GPS systems, the accuracy of the nuclear weapons wasn't that good. So to make sure that you did enough damage to a city, you made the Soviet Union and the United States made much bigger bombs. So even if you hit 20 miles away from your target, you would still destroy it. So as we can see, the fireball has basically vaporized downtown Los Angeles. The darkest sort of grey circle that you see there, that would be an overpressure of like 5 psi. So other than the strongest of concrete or steel reinforced buildings, everything, they would, only partially survive. Everything else would be totally obliterated, just gone, grind down to the foundations, grind down to dust. The fireball that you see in the centre there is around 9 miles across. So imagine an area with a radius of 9 miles that is just not even pulverized to dust, literally just vaporized into their base atoms, essentially. The orange circle that you see there is what's called the thermal pulse. So basically everything within that orange circle that can burn will burn. So everything in that orange circle would immediately catch fire within the first few seconds of the blast. It's literally just the sheer heat that is coming off that fireball there, which for all intents and purposes, for a few milliseconds, is an actual star that we create above a city. So in the few millionths of a second that star exists for, everything around it sets on fire. Then that weakest grey circle right there on the outside, that would be 1 to 2 psi damage. So that would be just a hurricane, just your average sort of category 5 hurricane. So steel reinforced buildings should survive with only cosmetic damage, but most people's homes, any light retail buildings, any warehouses, anything like that could be quite severely damaged, even with those weaker forces there. But remember, the weakest force is hurricane. Okay, and this is also radioactive and on fire. So looking at the downtown of Los Angeles, so right in the center there, that orange circle, that is the fireball. That's total, absolute, complete obliteration. Nothing exists there, and the bedrock has probably been ground down to glass. So if you live in Huntington Park, Monterey Park, Skid Row, Glendale, Inglewood, Southgate, Downey, Pasadena, your world is gone. Everything within that dark circle there is totally and utterly destroyed. If you're on the subway, you may survive, but the chances is that you will be trapped down there, because all of the buildings that have collapsed above you now, if they've not been vaporized, they are now on fire and piled high over any kind of entrance to the metro system. So this area here, if you work or you live, or obviously both, in this area, if you're home or at work when this event happens, you are gone. And arguably you're probably one of the luckier ones. So yes, this area would be total destruction. So the fireball radius would be 8 miles. So as I say, everything within that 8 miles would just be gone. Total blast damage out of 9 miles. So remember, that's still 18 miles from end to end of utter complete destruction. And thermal radiation in this area up to 20 miles. So anything that will burn for 20 miles will burn. So in the nuclear strike on Los Angeles, the total instantaneous deaths in the first few seconds is 1.8 million, and we have 3.5 million people mortally wounded within Los Angeles. And I think again that is just within that main circle of Los Angeles. I don't think it's necessarily counting, as you can see, like Santa Monica, Torrance, Carson, Norwalk, El Monte, I'm probably pronounced that, I'm not sure, I've never heard of that place before, Glendale, Pasadena, those areas are all on fire. They may not be within the direct blast, well, they are in the blast radius, but it's weak-ish. One thing, I'll mention it later actually, because I have made a slide about it. So on this most outer ring, as we say, this would be hurricane-like damage, except the wind would probably be pleasantly warm. So hurricane-like damage, and that would be on fire. So that's as far as Orange County and Santa Ana and Anaheim would be under those conditions primarily. So these images here I have put up just to demonstrate that once the dust settles and the fireball dissipates and the mushroom cloud blows away, most people think that they would hear the sirens begin, the army would mobilize, there would be some sort of rescue attempt, there would be nothing like that in the event of a nuclear explosion of this size on a major metropolitan area. As you can see here, we've got 3 freeway or 4 freeways maybe. They're not actually labelled on the map that I've got, so I can't. I was going to find a map and work it all out. But if you live in Los Angeles, you know what roads these are. They would now be impassable. So those out of bounds as entrance into Los Angeles. Again, so the path through the Hollywood Hills, going through to the valley on the opposite side, San Fernando Valley, which would be, because of the hills over here, this may be passable. Because I'm not sure of the topography here. So the Hollywood Hills could offer some kind of protection, but again, all you're going to do is just get closer to the devastation. You're not really going to be able to enter Los Angeles. So here on the eastern side of the city, we've got Culver City. Most of it's deep within the heavy damage area, and again, there's an intersection of some freeways there. They would also be totally impassable. This area would be on fire and utterly destroyed. Again, with in the sort of, I imagine, looking at the southern south side of the metropolitan area there. So there's another large clover leaf there of some quite girthy looking freeways. I imagine that they're one of the main sort of thoroughfares in the city. They would also be utterly, totally, 100% destroyed. And again here, any traffic that's trying to enter from the south of Los Angeles would also only be able to reach this place. Again, in the eastern side of LA, same thing. Now, here we have Los Angeles International Airport, which is located on the coast. So, some boats or some form of cleanup may happen within maybe a few, maybe a week or a month or so. There might be some sort of limited ingress there, as this would only be in the thermal zone. So all the fuel depots are all going to have exploded. All of the planes are going to have been sort of tossed about by the winds and set on fire. So it's not going to be easy, but maybe LAX may be able to render some sort of support to the. But again, even if you can get into the airport, you can't enter this. Everything would just back up there. You might be able to make slow ingress, but all the freeway, because in LA as well, a lot of the freeways are raised, and these would be destroyed, or at least they may be standing still, but there would be enough damage throughout the network to really make them useless. Now, this is a bit of a maybe. The Port of Long Beach is out of the thermal zone, and it's out of the worst of any overpressure damage. But again, you may be able to bring resources into there. But again, it would then be, where would you distribute? How would you distribute them? But yeah, it's not impossible that Long Beach may be able to become key to the salvage of Los Angeles, I guess. But yeah, the port may just about be okay-ish, depending on which way the wind was blowing and if there's much radiation. But yeah, Port of Long Beach survived. So here we have a freeway entering from the southeast. This would be more or less as far as anyone could come in approaching from this direction on this freeway here. Again, so this is to demonstrate my theory on the Hollywood Hills. The software says that the thermal pulse will carry into across the Hollywood Hills and into Studio City. Depending on where the weapon is, that might not actually be the case, as if there's something in between you and the thermal pulse, unless there's certain conditions of fog or rain or high humidity. But if it's a clear, dry, mist-free day in Los Angeles when this bomb goes off, this area may be okay from both the blast wave and from the thermal blast. However, the radiation may still be a significant issue. I'm not an expert on this, but I think that's definitely something that it could possibly be a possibility. Okay, Malibu there, for intents and purposes, would probably be fine with light damage, but it's, a bad storm, but would certainly physically be there. But it would physically be there, but obviously it's still going to be very, very negatively affected by its local metropolis disappearing one fine day. Now, this is the closest airport that seems to be out of the worst of the damage, that may be able to be utilised. I couldn't find the name of this airport without looking. This map doesn't always come up with all the information, but if you live in the area, you clearly know where this is. It's the big airport that's by Los Alamitos. Here's another possible site, this suspiciously blurred out airfield. There's large parklands around it, and looks like there's a nice bit of fresh water there. So this would possibly be a US military staging area for the salvage of Los Angeles. Here, I believe, from what I know of LA, is where the water from Colorado and Nevada comes into the city. This would be destroyed, but those lakes may just about be okay. But I don't know how vulnerable that infrastructure is to damage to any viaducts leading to it or from it. I'm not sure how stable that water is without, obviously, without people doing something to make it that way. But yeah, I imagine there's a lot of water infrastructure around here that would be destroyed. Again, northern Los Angeles. There is, I think, a chance that in these valleys and things there would be like little oases where the blast wave has been stopped by the hills, and obviously the thermal pulse has been weakened. But again, I'm not 100%. I don't know whether that would be the case, but I think you would have more chance there than you would have on the sort of Los Angeles plain. So once all the buildings have gone and been destroyed and the dust settles, you realise that this is a big problem. This is an infrastructure map of the power and telecommunications lines for Los Angeles. So all of those squares that you see there, they're individual power plants. So Glendale would be gone. The it's a bit blurry, I can't say it. General Station. But yeah, all those power plants would all be completely out of use. But then also those purple lines that you see there, they are transmission lines of 350 kilovolt. So they're the sort of, they're transmitting electricity between different cities. So if that little chunk there right in downtown LA here, that was to disappear and cut off, that could cause blackouts across the entire East Coast. Looking at this, there's several high voltage lines coming in from Nevada and in from up north. I'm not sure sort of how the power's balanced out. Depends whether one area creates more. Like I know that here in the United Kingdom, because London is such a massive consumer of power, our energy tends to be generated in the north and then is, like, for lack of a better term, pumped down the country, so that by the time it gets to the end of it, London's there to use it up, and then what we don't use then goes off to Paris, or France rather. But I think more than likely, though, we're usually having power from the French. So, yeah. Also, so even though the power lines are not down, there are obviously power stations and backup and everything in different cities. But there's the damage to the transmission. There's the absolute chaos that would be taking hold across the world, probably, if this was to happen. But primarily, Southern California would be it would be an issue, because the American Pacific Fleet is based in San Diego, which in American standards is down the road. So looking at the map, San Diego does have its very own transmission line that's coming in from Arizona. But I think San Francisco might be in trouble, unless Oregon and Washington have got a glut of energy, because it appears that a lot of the energy from Southern California is pumped north, instead of like the UK where it comes down. So even though LA is gone, the entire area is going to be in for some rough waters due to the amount of damage to the infrastructure. It's very likely, that Los Angeles would be rebuilt, especially if the detonation was an air blast, so you wouldn't have the radiation factor there. Like, the reason that Hiroshima is occupied today as opposed to Chernobyl or Pripyat, because in the Hiroshima explosion, the weapon detonated in the air, so that the fireball didn't touch the ground, so it didn't suck up all the dust and all the rubble that gets irradiated and spread out over a large area. The weapon is detonated in the air. It's a lot cleaner, a lot better for the. I was going to say better for the environment than a nuclear explosion. Better for the environment. You know what I mean. And there's not as much radiation, so the chances are LA could be rebuilt. But maybe due to the systemic issues with water and the environment that exist in our Los Angeles, maybe they wouldn't bother. Who knows? What do you think would happen? Do you think you would have a fighting chance? What would be your plan? Where would you run for if you were lucky enough to survive? And also, which city do you think I should do next? I've spelt remember right. I've missed the M off remember. Bloody hell. I'm not feeling very well, so please forgive me. But remember to like and follow. And if you'd like to see a specific city or your hometown get the Nuke City treatment, you know what to do. All right. Thanks very much for your time. Bye-bye.